extraordinaire, the GMologist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GMologist Presents. Today, I have a question for everyone. I actually put it in the question thing. And the question is, how do you play your NPCs? I'm just wondering because I feel like in a couple recent games that I played, and perhaps even I am guilty of it sometimes, you always run into the intractable NPC. That NPC that no matter how well you feel your group role plays, or no matter how well, if it comes to it in the particular game that you're running, that you get that really good roll on, say, diplomacy or charm or whatever, or I guess another one would be persuasion, that the NPC still doesn't crack. And it seems inevitably this leads to like a fight. Why does that happen? And what is the cause of that? I guess that's what I'm going to ruminate about. I'll also talk about some games, and we also have some really good call-ins from Jason Connerly. As you may have heard, Jason may be hanging up his hat, but he says he's going to be calling in to a lot of our podcasts, which is great. He'll still be around. And of course, if only he didn't work so hard, maybe he could play in some more games, but it looks like that's maybe easing up a bit. And I can hear him prepping to run games in the background behind. No, he's not behind me. But he talks about prepping to run games and being in games, so maybe that's opening up. Well, good for him. Anyway, he has some great calls, so sit back and enjoy. Again, thank you for listening.
It's funny that Amy is on the same wavelength as Jason Hobbs, hating making characters. Hobbs is also very much a just give me a pre-gen kind of player. That's an interesting setting that you unboxed. Blessed and Blasphemous, or whatever it is, the class Casablanca thing. They tried to do that with Kenneth Haidt tried to do that with Day After Ragnarok as well. You remember Day After Ragnarok came out, I don't know, a while ago, over a decade ago now, where they basically World War II, the Nazis get the Midheim Serpent up, and they nuke it, and it falls across Europe, and so you have this kind of post-apocalyptic sword and sorcery setting with, right after World War II, with World War II tech and Serpent tech and all kinds of great stuff. But they did like a Casablanca kind of thing. I don't remember if they used Casablanca or if I think they re-put it in Tehran, actually. But they had kind of like basically the equivalent of a Casablanca in that setting as well, Kenneth Haidt did. So kind of really cool. That would be a cool world to venture in sometime. And that's a game, interesting enough, that setting, I should say, is one that they adapted to a ton of different systems. They had a hero version, a Fate version, a Savage Worlds version. They had a bunch of different versions of the Day After Ragnarok, the setting. And then I think the adventurers were pretty much agnostic, so you could play them in any of those settings. But anyhow, I will let you go. I just kind of thought about that when you guys were talking about your unboxing.
Jason, thank you for that call. Yeah, I do remember that product, but I don't think I ever bought on it. And I was looking at my PDFs, and I don't think I have it. Okay, belay that. I do have it. I didn't have it in my, in my folders on my computer, but I went to drive-through, and yep, I have it. Savage Setting by Kenneth Haidt. I have the Savage Worlds edition that I purchased, which looks really cool. Like you said, I believe it is for the Adventure Edition, not the which edition? I feel like the third edition, not the latest one, whatever it's called. But yeah, it looks really cool, and it is something to want to play along with that other game, Necessary Evil. Is that the other one we wanted to do? Something like that. So yeah, it looks pretty cool, like post-apocalyptic, up my alley. But what if, post-World War One, World War II, that is, with the Midgard Serpent being across the world and crazy stuff happening in the world. Lots of different samples and their pre-gen characters, introductions. I thought there was a map available of the world, but I don't quite see it. and I feel like I've seen the map somewhere of the world and where the Midgard serpent is located. So cool stuff. And as with regards to the Blessed and the Blasphemous, so I've been reading through it, and I'd like to give it a thorough understanding or a thorough read through before I subject unwary, unwitting, hopefully willing players to that madness. So it's actually really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I like the format. It's easy reading. There's a lot of different things that you can do. I haven't quite gotten to like what kind of character you should make. I'm reading through the factions now, but I've already read through sort of the introduction, the geography, the mythos stuff. I'm reading through the bad guy section right now. So I'm really enjoying it. It's a good read. And like I said, I'd like to run it. I don't know yet if I would do it pulp or if I do it standard. So I will let you know.
Hey, Carl, Jason here. Just listening to episode 254. And interesting point on the VTTs and starter sets for those. My problem is I never buy the VTT games and use that. You know what I mean? When I run on VTTs, I tend to build everything myself instead of buying their content. So, but that said, I have recently started playing they've got the solo scenario that comes with Call of Cthulhu for you to learn the game. That's free on Roll20. So I've started playing through that, and we're going to see how that goes because I need to refresh myself on the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition rules because I'm going to end up running a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition adventure. So I need to refresh myself. And I actually bought the that adventure. That's the first adventure I've ever bought on a VTT. Is the adventure I'm going to run. I'm not going to talk about the adventure I'm going to run because I don't want to ruin it. But so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if that changes my hate of VTTs or not. The fact that Call of Cthulhu has so many handouts and the adventures have so many beautiful handouts and things, and I could have just taken the book, the PDF, and copy and pasted out all the handouts and put them up in Discord or wherever as I ran the game. But I figured that's a heck of a lot of work where I can just get the VTT and do the same thing. So aside from the character sheets and putting up pictures of handouts, I don't know how much we're going to use the VTT. I doubt we're going to do tactical combat or any of that. But even if it's just for the handouts and maps and character sheets, it'll probably be worthwhile. We'll see. I'm also delving into Pulp Cthulhu, so that's a whole other thing to read. So I'm reading through an Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. I'm learning Pulp Cthulhu and learning to run an adventure on a bot adventure on a VTT all at once. So wish me luck. Take care of yourself. I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Carl, Jason here. Driving to work in the rain. Sorry about any background noise. But on the latest episode of the Omega 3D Chicken Coop, Tone, Why Does It Matter, that just was released, at the time of this call, you have a call into Eric where you kind of talk about player engagement and how you wish some of your players were more engaged and your experiences with different levels of player engagement and campaigns and whatnot. And I think that's an interesting topic. I was following a discussion on one of the forums, online forums, and somebody mentioned that their best campaigns were games where the players were engaged out of game. So whether it was like Ars Magica or I forget the other example they brought up, but there were games where the players had to do things between sessions, right? And in those games, and I think what it comes down to is if the players are engaged between sessions, if they have homework or whatever they need to do, upkeep, that because they're thinking about the game other than just during the time you're playing, that helps with that engagement, helps with that excitement. A lot of us are in games and we're in too many games and have a lot of real life stuff going on. And sometimes we're in games where we don't think about the game except when we're actually logged in and playing that particular game. But the more memorable games are the games where we think about the game, between the weekly sessions or between the 2 weeks between the sessions, and we're interacting on the Discord and we're doing things. And so I think building in out of game work and pitching games that way and say, hey, listen, we're definitely going to be doing stuff on Discord between the games and getting the player buy-in, I think probably is a big part of creating that optimal experience. Now, and you could do that in person as well. Obviously that's not going to appeal to all players, but I think it would help get that maximum experience if you get players that would agree to interact and do things between sessions. So, anyway, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but I felt like I'd call in since I heard you calling to Eric, and it could be 3 months before his next show, so it's more useful to call into you. Talk to you later.
Hey, Jason. So, yeah, I didn't jump in the middle of the other call. I just put those two calls from Jason together. His first one being on VTTs and how he's gearing up to run a Call of Cthulhu game, which is awesome. I think the Alone Against series is a fantastic series of games. There's one in the starter set. There's a few others that I have. I know I have Alone Against the Tide. There's Alone Against the Frost. You can go back in the history of Call of Cthulhu and find a lot of Alone Against, that is, Alone Again, being the song by Dawkins from their Tooth and Nail album. So, but Alone Against and I think Alone Against the Flames is the one in the starter set, which is really cool. I did not know they had it on VTT. Now, I in the past, or actually when they don't have the Roll20 available, I have in the past made my own, Roll20, and I think that's why I probably use Roll20 the most. Whereas, Fantasy Grounds and Foundry have a lot of fancy bells and whistles. I just don't grok them enough because I haven't had to make my own stuff yet. Although in Walking Dead, I kind of was trying to make my own sort of south central Texas thing, and it took me some time. But yeah, I did the Dead Sons Stat Fighter Adventure Path when we had to switch to VTT because of COVID. I kind of did my own thing. I did my own thing for a number of other ones. I mean, sometimes like they have it available, so I just buy it because it's easier. It has the cool tokens, and you don't have to do it. But I know if I wanted to run, say, like Reign of Winter or another Pathfinder 1 adventure path, then they probably don't have it. They might not have it. I know Fantasy Grounds has a lot of that stuff, but I don't know. There's something fun about making your own thing, and I've done that a lot. I think with the Eberron campaign, it's really cool because I'm making my own. I mean, I got the Eberron compendium, but I'm making my own maps and my own set of adventures, and I use like the starter adventure in there, but now it's like my own thing. And I think that's what's kind of fun to do. I did that with Marvel Multiverse, the 50 State Initiative, doing our own thing just by the Marvel Compendium. I mean, now my players want to run Kang. I guess we did start the Cataclysm of Kang the other night, and it kind of has like its own thing. And maybe I guess if there's like a need for it, if it's popular, I think they're going to have one available. But if not, then it doesn't bother me to make my own. I did that actually recently with Badge Quest, and there weren't even any character sheets with the Badge Quest RPG, and I just kind of made my own do-it-yourself, I guess, a DIY Roll20 game for it. And a lot of inspiration from Dungeon Muser, Kevin Madison, to do that. So, and it's really fun to do, actually, when you got some time. I think I was doing that for Pine Box or other things. I'm like, and sometimes like on Kickstarters, they're like, well, they have the VTT option. I'm like, I don't know. You can really just do your own thing. Hopefully they have a character sheet. If not, well, you can always use a PDF or just use it to like send a PDF to the players and use the Roll20 just to roll dice. Some people like to do that too. So you like a hybrid VTT experience. But I think that's pretty cool. So the other call was about player engagement. And I agree. I mean, I get more excited about a game or willing to run a game, though perhaps Amy says I give her a hard time. But she's really into Twilight 2000 or in the game, and she thinks about it and talks to me about it. Sometimes I like crack at her, maybe unnecessarily. I don't want to hear about it. Or another of the players goes, every time we talk, you want to talk about that. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, she wants to be engaged. She's interested in it. And I think that's really cool. It does inspire one to continue to run the game and to get excited to run the game. And yeah, but some player, I mean, it'd be great if all players are like that, are engaged or talk about it, or at the very least, when your characters level up at the end of one session, the next session they're already leveled up, and we don't have to wait for you to level up the character. I mean, right? So hopefully do it in between time. I know there's some platforms like Fantasy Grounds where you can't go to the game unless the GM opens it up. So hopefully, the GM, you confer with the GM, or you think ahead of time what you're going to do, and then confer with the GM. Hey, could you open that up a little earlier? And then I'll level up my character. I don't know. I know people are very busy, but so is the GM. The GM is very busy, and he has time to prep and all that kind of stuff with the game. So, now there are some games where, like games involving with domain play or trade and space trucking, for example, Traveler, building ships, all that kind of cool tech stuff. Some people don't like it, but some people who are not really so much into the role playing part of a game, or are just there socially and would rather have other people have the spotlight when they're running a game. Sometimes those people are very good at engagement still, because they're the builders, they're the ones who the ones who take the log, who do the inventory for the treasure, all that kind of stuff, which I think is super helpful. So I agree. Player engagement in between be really great. I do try to have these discords in my various games, and some people engage, some people don't. And even within a game, there are people who engage and there are people who do not. So you can't, right? What do? You just, I think more and more, I'm like just excited by the people who do engage, and maybe their engagement will inspire others to do so. But maybe less and less I should get upset. And it's probably true. I get upset less and less when people don't engage. I mean, it's what you want to do, right? It's how you enjoy the game. If you enjoy the game but just by going there and showing up and playing as you go there, then that's the way you enjoy the game, right? If you enjoy the game by thinking about the strategies that you're going to use the next time you fight the big boss, that's the way you enjoy the game. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. Definitely, I'll put a link in the show notes to Eric Salzwiedel Omega 3D Chicken Coop podcast, his latest. And hopefully I'll be invited one of these days to be on his show. It sounds pretty cool, but maybe I'm just not famous enough. Anyway, on to the next thing.
Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Right, so let's get to the meat of this podcast. First, though, maybe a rundown of some of the games that I've been playing and running. Alas, there are no reports for Twilight 2000 or for our ongoing Traveler game or Kingmaker. We've kind of skipped the last iteration of those sessions due to travel and scheduling and people being ill and the like. So played some other games though. I ran an impromptu game of a game called Badge Quest RPG. You play the Brave Blossoms, which is a brownies, Girl Scouts with the serial numbers filed off type of game. So you play investigators, young women investigators who sell cookies and solve mysteries. And it's kind of a horror themed game in a way. Kind of Nancy Drew meets the Girl Scouts. And there's a whole mechanic. There's a game within a game to sell cookies and win the prizes. And that's how you gain experience points, actually, is if you focus on the cookie sales instead of the mystery. And we did record this game. It was pretty fun. The character creation is super simple. It took like a half an hour at most for three of us to make characters. There's some questions you could do totally randomly. And it was a really fun little game. We were able to finish the adventure in one session. It involves spiders and clowns and things that probably trigger various people's. But the Girl Scouts, one of the Girl Scouts took a particular archetype that allows you to double your results from your cookie sales. So they knocked it out of the park, especially after they solved the mystery, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's really fun to do and to play, and it'll be on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, in a couple weeks or maybe next week. So we also have not been able to play our ongoing D&D Eberron. Did we play Eberron? The Eberron's coming up, I believe, but we didn't play at our last iteration. I think that game is coming up this week. Our last iteration we didn't play, maybe. And then the other game we started, I mentioned earlier, was a Marvel Universe game, Cataclysm of Kang, and that was really fun. We ran a couple of encounters, got to introduce the player characters. They're starting off at rank 1, so street level superheroes. And we haven't I think we're going to do like sort of a combination of advances through the story. So every time they come to a new session, they'll have an advance. BJ, Boyd, and I realize that if you do 10 advances, then you get to the next rank sort of naturally. And that consists of, in this game, 5 increases to your abilities, 4 new powers, and a new trait. So then you advance to rank 2, and all that entails. So probably the karma would be the last one you kind of get as a reward for that. But you have all the powers and you're growing in character. And if we don't take 10 sessions to finish a particular adventure, then we just milestone to rank 2. And some people are going to keep ranking up their character if they made their own character, or just pick up a new character, or play one character a couple ranks and then pick up a character that they really enjoy playing that they've played in the past. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's a fun game, easy to learn, easy to play. I really enjoy it. And I really would like one of these days to go back and play some of the other older Marvel games and play some more superhero games. I really enjoyed Champions in the, I want to say late 90s, early aughts, when I played a lot of Champions 5th edition revised. And it was really fun to do. So I do like superhero games, and I know I'm running a Monster Squad superhero game at ChupacabraCon too. So different types of game systems for that. So what else have we done? Yeah, Bloodlords went really well, and I love what M.W. Lewis of the Worlds of M.W. Lewis does. He kind of I guess has a session, and then he kind of writes it up, or someone writes, I don't know if one of the players writes it up, but he kind of does a narration of the session. I think I'd like to do that. It was a really good session. They had decided to kind of break into an abandoned bank facility, and they had a means to get to the lower levels and to the vaults, and they cleared out the vault, found some cool treasure. 3 characters dropped. One almost died, was at like dying 3 until he was able to be helped, and one character had to sustain, like, take a hit, a free hit or whatever, use one of his actions to try to stabilize the character instead of attacking the foe. So it was a good team effort, and they managed to keep their characters alive and up, but just barely. It was interesting. It seemed like the adversaries that were least powerful or less powerful did more because there were more of them, or did more damage to the party because there were more of them. Also on account of a couple crits in a row on my part, or 2 crit hits on my part. But then karma got back at me because I rolled like 3 ones in a row at one point. So, them's the breaks, I guess. So it was good. It's a good session, and they leveled up to 3, so it's a pretty quick rise. So I do enjoy like quick leveling, quick pace. And then you've heard the woes of the Warhammer story, and we're playing that tonight. So there you go. What do I mean by the intractable NPC? I guess I've been in a couple of games recently where it's like no matter what you do or no matter how you approach the NPC, they're going to be intractable. And that is, you can't argue your way out of it if the GM calls for a roll. And even when I've seen other players in the group blow out the roll, like a charm roll, persuasion, diplomacy, whatever, out of the park, then the NPC still remains like not willing to cooperate. And I guess I don't understand that. I mean, maybe I tend to try to be objective in my way of running NPCs, and there's a great discussion of that in a few of Mirke the Meek's earlier podcasts. I put the link in the show notes where he talks about NPC motivations, and I thought I put a call into it, and it was sort of not well. I called it in, and it wasn't quite accurate, and then I corrected myself on the accuracy. But a great tool that I use in Twilight 2000 sort of codify this idea and not fall into the trap. A GM can fall into a trap, and I've done it before, where I love this NPC, I want to have them survive. But if you listen to like Joe Richter, Wrath of the Righteous, man, if you put up one NPC against a group of powerful heroes, the heroes are just going to boom, 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 and you really can't be tied to an NPC. I think you just gotta. Yes, they have their agenda. Yes, they're doing other things in the background. Yes, this is their starting attitude, but I feel like it's the player's game. It's not. The GM plays the game, creates the world, but the players are the stars of the show, and let them use their talents and their abilities to make things work. I guess that's what I'm saying. So that's why I love like Twilight 2000, because it kind of objectifies all that. And again, the GM won't fall into the trap of having that favorite NPC that he doesn't want to die, that he wants to, always have that quip and get that edge and be 1-2 steps ahead of the player characters. But I mean, I know in a series, even in a television series, I'm like, how is that possible? Why are the bad guys always like 2 or 3 steps ahead of the good guys for no apparent reason? And that really irritates me. And I guess I'm pro hero, and I think the characters in a role playing game, or the heroes in a story, should be the stars of the show. Now they can have setbacks, sure, but I just sometimes I feel like the villains win sometimes illogically, in my mind. Right? So yes, maybe they're 1 step ahead. Maybe they planned this out already, but it shouldn't be like a surprise to the audience. You should like, oh yeah, that the hero's messed up. Oh yeah, the villain kind of did that, not just sort of some sort of do ex machina reason for the villain getting away or winning or whatever. And this goes back actually to my champion days. And I remember, I don't know if Hobbs remembers this game, but we were chasing a bad guy, and I think both of us rolled like the best roll we could get in a particular game, which was like headshot, almost max damage, right? Both of us on this villain that we were chasing, and we had him dead to rights. And the GM, I guess it was a favorite villain for the GM. The GM said, "Oh, he just disappears. You can't find him." I'm like, okay, it was weird. It was odd and awkward. You can't let crits be negated by some sort of GM fiat, I believe. So that's, I guess, my philosophy. So anyway, I diverge from Twilight 2000 just to reiterate. So there is a table in the referee's manual in the appendix on page 105 if you follow along and have this game. And it has NPC motivation. You draw a card, and the cards are ranked from 2 to ace. And clubs is violence, spades is power, diamond is wealth, and hearts is fellowship. So then you roll and you see how strong or not that tendency is for that NPC. So for example, if you rolled a king of violence, that NPC would be brutal. A queen of violence would be stubborn. So there you have your intractable NPC. But then it's not the GM's deciding, it's the cards deciding. But then there are ways in Twilight 2000, and we've done it, where you can use some psychological warfare and talk down a bad guy and get him all turned around and make him kind of curl up into a ball because he's like doesn't know his left hand from his right. It can happen. It can happen in a wartime situation. It can happen with suppressive fire in a situation like that, depending. So it is possible in Twilight 2000, in our current game, that maybe the Black Baron, might surrender because his castle just got inundated with chemical weapons that he actually wanted he was trying to get, but the player characters intervened, got them, learned about it, and now are using them against him. So he probably has he has a, I would say like a megalomania. He has a spade, an ace of spades, right? He's a power hungry megalomaniac. But perhaps because of the situation, maybe he will surrender, and we'll see what the players do. I don't know. I just think that as a GM, like I said, you can't be tied to that NPC's cause, and I feel like a player should be able to make a difference in that, right? I mean, again, I recommend highly you go listen to Hindsightless. I'll put the links in the show notes, especially as Wrath of the Righteous. Right now, they're doing a lot of I think cool things, and they're dealing with demons, and he's letting the dice dictate how these demons are reacting and learning about and maybe respecting the player characters because of what the dice have dictated. And I think that's kind of perhaps the way it should go. Anyway, I try to do that. I generally get, honestly, as a player, frustrated with intractable NPCs, especially when you do good deeds for them, you help them out, and they're still going to be mean. I just don't get it. But maybe that's the way people are in real life. I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of an optimist. Anyway, I do have a question, actually. And how do you handle your NPCs? How do you handle your NPCs? Are they intractable? Are they set in their ways? Is there no way a player, who asks the right question, makes the right rolls, can not break them, but redeem them, change them, get them to their side, get them to stand down when you don't want a violent situation to occur? Or are we just gonna, kill them all and let the gods sort it out? All right. Well, I think that's about it. That's my little rant for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed, if not this, then at least the calls and responses from Jason, calls from Jason and the responses by me. So thank you so much for listening. This has been the GMologist Presents. If you want a comment, you can send me an email at gmologist@gmail.com. I have a SpeakPipe account that's linked in the show notes. You can also drop me a line, an audio message or text message or whatever they're called on Discord, a DM, direct message on the Discord. I'm hashtag Carl Rodriguez. I don't think he uses hashtag anymore. And you can find me on various Discords. It'd be great if you also wanted to, if you like the stuff and you want to learn about more games and find games to play and talk to people like-minded. I know we have audio dungeon Discords, but I do also have my own Discord, the Geomologist Lab. So again, thank you so much for listening. Good night and good rolling. Oh, I always forget this. I apologize. The intro and outro music is by TJ Drennan. My wife Amy does the cover clip art. Thanks again.
Oh.